Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and in today's episode we're going to be doing a deep dive on NPC Crew and AI Blades. I did one of these previously for land claims and base building, and I'm going to try and stick to the same format. There's enough blue sky in Star Citizen already without me adding to it. So my goal's been to gather as much information as CIG have put out there to try and condense it down and present it in one video for backers new and old. I'm going to purposely try and keep my opinions out of it until the very end, at which point I might sprinkle a few of my own views. So be sure to stick around if you care what I think, or switch off before then. A big disclaimer here that NPCs and AI Blades aren't in the game yet, so this is a summary of the insights that the team have given us about how they see these features evolving, but nothing's set in stone. Just before we get into it, a tiny bit of housekeeping. Firstly, apologies that I haven't been around very much for the last couple of weeks. I'd been considering giving myself a couple of weeks off as a bit of a holiday, but then Mother Nature decided to do it for me and sent a heavy dose of lurgy to put me firmly in my bed for a little while. Unfortunately, that did mean that we had to postpone our charity stream last weekend, but if you have some spare time tomorrow, that's Saturday 19th of March, we're going to be streaming here on YouTube between 5 PM and 9 PM UTC. We're trying to raise money due to the current situation in Ukraine. In particular, my wife, who is Ukrainian, is running a GoFundMe to support moving her family to safety. So as part of the stream, we're going to be raffling off a Drake Vulture with LTI, very kindly donated by a member of our community, Rolanders. And each £5 donation to Ali's GoFundMe will qualify you for a ticket, as long as you ping us a message with your Discord handle after you make a donation. You can buy more than one ticket if you like, and we'll be doing a draw for that raffle towards the end of the stream tomorrow evening. So the key reason we care about AI is that Star Citizen has so many multi-crew ships. I did a quick count, and out of all of the ships in-game and concept, it looks like approximately 40% of them are single-seater solo ships, versus 60% that have at least some multi-crew element. Furthermore, the ships scale in terms of capability, so taking mining as an example, the solo Prospector is somewhat limited versus the 4-person Mole, which is then very limited versus the 7-person Orion. My personal view is that multi-crew is awesome, and one of the best reasons to get involved in SC as opposed to other space games. But in terms of practicality, for a wide variety of reasons, players may want to crew some of their seats on board their ships with AI. As an aside, since AI crew isn't a thing yet, if you are looking for a way to experience multi-crew for now, you're going to need to find yourself some human mates. So please do feel free to come and say hi to us on Discord. The link to that's just in the video description down below. So I reckon a good place to start is with the differences between NPC Crew and AI Blades. NPC crewmates are going to be NPCs that you recruit on your travels around the verse to serve on your vessel. They're going to have a lot of the same limitations as human players, needing oxygen, food, and even rest. Alternatively, if you prefer your crewmates a bit more robotically reliable, you're going to be able to utilise AI Blades which plug into your ship's computer and help perform a certain function. You can check out if your ship has computer slots on the technical overview, so for instance we can see that this 600i Explorer has 2 medium computers, which would provide support for 4 AI Blades. The goal for a lot of people considering either NPCs or AI Blades is going to be manning the turrets on multi-crew ships, but Todd Pappy has suggested Blades will have a much wider variety of functionality. I dug out some of his responses during a 2020 AMA on Spectrum and have got this list of potential AI Blades. So we've got things ranging from missile defense systems, to offensive and defensive E-War Blades, to more utility-focused blades like those which assist with mining and salvage, or even provide a criminal database to give you a list of bounty hunting targets to track down. When it comes to NPCs, I think one of the key things to highlight is that some turrets in SC are remote and controlled through onboard computer systems, while others are manned, requiring a body in a seat. And I reckon personally that it would make sense to provide some limitations to AI Blades that only NPC crew or human players would be able to operate the latter by physically getting in there. However, I did look through and I found the Aegis Hammerhead Q&A from 2013, where one of the questions is, are the ship's computers powerful enough to power all 6 turrets? And here the answer suggests that the Hammerhead's 4 blade slots of its 2 medium computers would be able to automate 4 out of the 6 turrets, despite the fact that the Hammerhead's turrets are all of the manned variety. So it does seem that my assumptions were wrong there. It has also been suggested though that the team want NPC crewmates to evolve to be able to fly ships, provide onboard security, engineering functions, and even act as medical staff. With ships like the Banu Merchantman and Kraken Privateer giving the option of NPC-run shops on board, it's also probably worth incorporating NPCs who run these bazaars into the mix of NPC crewmates. So I think you're going to see some limitations in terms of blades by not only the computer slots that you have on your ship, but also sort of functionality that AI blades can do that NPC crew members can't, and similarly functionality that NPC crew members can do that AI blades can't. When it comes to where you can actually hire NPC crew, you're going to have to physically recruit them. So in Around the Verse 3.3, Tony Z mentioned that the primary way to recruit NPCs to form your ragtag squad will be at major landing zones, which will have a personnel shop. I guess basically it's the job centre of the Star Citizen universe. So here you'll be able to peruse a variety of available characters, each of whom is going to require a daily salary dependent on their skill set and the current demand for it. Tony was keen to stress that NPCs can be rented but never purchased, so I guess this is going to be another key difference between AI blades and NPC crew. I assume that once I own a piece of computer hardware, it's mine, although it may require some maintenance and/or have an element of wear and tear. Tony also mentions that some NPCs will be found in some of the further corners of the verse. In effect, some will offer to work for you during interactions you might have sort of further out away from the personnel shops. Tony hinted that the best NPCs with the highest levels of skill or max potential will have to be found in this way rather than by flicking through the pages of a personnel catalogue. In the depths of the comlink, we also have an article on accounts with multiple game packages, where you've bought more than one starter pack for instance. Here it's mentioned that you can convert one of your game character slots to an NPC, giving you an additional level of control and customization over this character, their looks and their backstory. When it comes to crewing bigger ships, a question did come up regarding whether we'd be expected to individually pick each and every member of our crews. Tony mentioned that he envisages an option to specify a certain ship, whether you're after a full or skeleton crew, and an average level of skill at the personnel shops, and that should enable you to fill out the roster of a much larger ship much more quickly. Tony's also mentioned that NPCs will be managed through a Mobiglass app, allowing you to see who you have hired and where they're currently stationed within your fleet. There will be an element of being able to insure your crew, a good feature if you've spent time levelling up certain crewmates. NPCs that serve in a crew will have a range of stats that denote their proficiency in a range of disciplines. It will determine how well they can pilot, operate a turret, control a tractor beam, carry out repairs. In line with what's been said elsewhere around Quanta, the idea is that a few psychological components would be tracked as well, like aggression and intelligence. So you'll have some NPCs who are way more keen to take on combat-oriented roles, and won't require as much money to do them, as say others who are more peaceful, violence-opposed NPCs. Most NPCs though will be specialists with a key proficiency in one area, but there will be some exceptions. NPCs will have a maximum potential threshold, and will develop their skills depending on how much time they spend performing a task. So while in Star Citizen we don't have a traditional experience system, like you would find in something like World of Warcraft, it seems that for the NPCs they do. They're more envisaging this experience system with a hard cap, sort of the ultimate skill level that an NPC can achieve. And Tony highlights that you would be expected to invest your time and attention as well as just money in order to build up an exemplary crew, which is something I personally really like. When it comes to how capable NPC crews will be, we've got some conflicting messages. Todd Pappy was asked whether, with all other things being equal, NPC crews would stand up to full player ones, and Todd's response was that they should prove equally capable. He notes that high-end NPCs in internal simulations have hit rates in the high 90%, so I mean obviously that's assuming that a lot of the current server issues get ironed out, I suppose. but that these sort of hit rates put them far higher than the average player in terms of something like manning a turret. However, in 10 for the Chairman episode 68, Chris comments on how a key drawback to NPC crewmates is that they lack the self-awareness of human players. So like, an NPC isn't just go abandon their post at a turret to go and fix something essential instead, even if sort of something is within complete range of them, and if they don't fix it, the whole ship's going down. They're going to rely on being told by you, whereas a human player would probably, hopefully, have the self-awareness to realise that they need to stop shooting and fix the ship before it blows. And the final concrete point that I was able to glean from past presentations referred to something called agent smithing. So this is the ability of players to effectively take control of an NPC on a friend's ship. This is mentioned at various points early on, but not for some time, and it's very much just passed over. But it could be a really good way with the distances involved in Star Citizen for players to get some game time in with multiple friends. This way, if you've got a mate who isn't on so much as your regular group, you should be able to port across the verse to get together with them and maybe do a bit of bounty hunting, without necessarily having to travel, multiple star systems and then travel back to rejoin with your main group. So that brings me on to a bit of my own opinion just to round this episode out. And firstly, I'd like to politely disagree with Mr. Pappy. I've yet to find a game where NPCs really stand up to the abilities of human players. I can totally understand his point about hit rates, but a full human crew does more than just pew pew. Picking on something like the Hammerhead, for example, if you've ever been part of a full crew, you'll know that the pilot's visibility is somewhat limited. The pilot isn't just relying on the gunners to shoot, they're also the eyes of the ship. And constant communication between gunners and pilot allows the pilot to manoeuvre and put the ship in the right place to maximise guns on target. NPCs at the very highest end might be really good shots, but they're not going to be able to give you this back and forth communication to maximise the ship's fighting potential. Keeping focus on something like the Hammerhead, I'd also say that there's likely to be different ships that are better and less suited to running NPC crews. The Hammerhead in many ways is a great option to just stack with NPCs, despite the aforementioned weakness of pilot visibility. If you're looking for a ship to stack with blades and a couple of crew to deliver a good escort vehicle, then something like this is going to be hard to beat. But comparatively, is it going to be worth it to add an NPC to a Vanguard Warden, for instance, where they're only going to add 2 size 2 guns to the mix? This is all of course just going to depend on the maths. And personally, I hope that a healthy balance can be found, where primarily NPCs can be used to bring a bit of a force multiplier effect to your operation, and to take on some of the less interesting jobs away from human players. For instance, I love the Perseus, and would probably envisage using human players to take control of piloting, engineering, and the main weaponry, those 2 massive dual size 7 turrets, while utilising an NPC or AI blades to run the smaller point defence weaponry, which might not even fight during an engagement. I hope that for the sake of keeping this an MMORPG focused on player interaction though, that the cost of running full NPC crews with 1 human commander, EVE Online style, is prohibitively expensive. Just building out from some basic mission maths, we can assume that non-combat roles might pay something in the range of 50 to 100k an hour, while combat roles are more like 100 to 200k an hour. Just looking at box delivery missions, halt illegal surveillance, claim jumpers, that sort of thing. Sort of average, what average players can achieve in those times using those sorts of missions. So it's obviously very speculative, but that could mean that a single NPC could run into the millions of credits a day if you were going to have them employed for 24 hours. So once we factor in that NPCs need to rest and eat, so you need more than just enough to man your turrets in a single endless shift, the running costs of a fully NPC crewed capital ship could easily blow into the tens of millions a day. Now there might be missions that make this worthwhile, but I personally hope NPCs are more tactically used to bolster a fleet's capability, as opposed to just providing a way to avoid playing the game with other people, because I really think that's not something we want to encourage. So I hope you found this video useful. I could of course have missed something, or lots of things. Part of the reason for doing these deep dives and the research that backs them up is to try and make the info more accessible. But with the length of time the project's been running, golden nuggets can always just be hidden away out of sight, and I can miss them as I'm trying to read through everything. So if you think I've missed something, or if you just want to chat through some of your own opinions on this, then please do get in touch in the comments. I do my best to read all of them and get back to as many as I can. And if you think I've earned it at this point, please consider dropping a like and hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already. It is truly amazing to see that we're nearly at 8,000 subscribers. And with all that said, if you've got some spare time tomorrow, it'd be really great to see you during the stream, but don't worry if not. And thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I look forward to seeing you next time.